All right, so welcome to Priestessing in the Modern World. I am Emily of Wise Woman Witchery, and many of you will probably know me because that's how you found me here and found this class here. But for those of you that don't know, I am the owner and operator of Wise Woman Witchery, which is a company that really works on helping people step into their power through earth-based spirituality and earth-based practices. So that's sort of my mission statement here is I want everybody to embrace their power, embrace their magic, and really feel that confidence that comes from within when we do that. So today we're going to be talking about priestessing in the modern world. And the reason that, that I want to talk about this is that I strongly believe that we all have a priestess that lives within each of us. So if you pause for a minute and you think about the word priestess, you might have an image that automatically comes to mind. Perhaps it's, Avalon. Perhaps it's Egypt. Perhaps it's a priestess in Greece. An African priestess. Like when you think of the word priestess, where does it take you? What do you see? That answer is going to be different for each of us because we're all going to have a different relationship to that word. And you might go somewhere where you find yourself thinking, that doesn't connect to me at all. Like, yes, here's this idea of priestess out here, but I don't feel that inside of myself. And so what we're going to talk about is the meaning of the word priestess, how this might appear in our day-to-day lives and the people around us, maybe how it is percolating or living inside of us. And then we're going to do a journey together to go meet our inner priestess self. And you can finally see who she is if you haven't seen her before, or get reacquainted if she's somebody that you've already had some contact with. So that's our plan for our time together today. And to get started here and to really get here, I'd like to invite you to just take 3 deep breaths with me to land here in your body. You can close your eyes if you want. I'm going to do that. Take a big breath in. Let it all go. Here we are in the middle of the afternoon on a Friday. Perhaps it's the evening where you are. Take another breath. Whatever you've done up to this point, just release it. And take that final deep breath in. And let go. Let your breath move back into its natural rhythm. You can open your eyes, be here with all of us. I'm so glad you made the time to be here for yourself. So as we think about the word priestess, let's begin with the description. Yeah, the description from the dictionary. We're going to start with the description from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So Merriam-Webster defines a priestess as a woman who is authorized to perform the sacred rites of a religion. The second definition is a woman regarded as the leader of a movement. So we have a couple different definitions here. And you might pause for a minute and just think about, what is your religion? What does that mean to you? What's your spiritual path? What would you define as a sacred rite? Because we're all going to have slightly different opinions about what that is as well. Now, for me, my own path is really rooted in the energy of the earth. It's rooted in the cycles of nature, of the cosmos, of the moon. So I feel very connected in my spirituality to all of the rhythms that are happening around me in the natural world, above and below. And that's where I find my religious experience, my belief system really stems from. I feel really at home in the word witch, but I'm not Wiccan. And I just want to make that determination here, that clarification here. And I have pieces of the Wiccan religion that have made their way into some of my practices and spiritual path, but I do not follow a strict Wiccan path. And for the purpose of our chat today, I really want to acknowledge that there are Wiccan paths that actually lead you to an initiation of becoming a priestess. There are certain steps that are taken, and then you're initiated, and then you have that title within that religion. What I am talking about today is not that. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm talking about today is really about priestessing as a woman who is a leader, a woman who can perform those sacred rites of whatever religion or spiritual practice that she follows. So just to clarify there, the other piece of the priestess energy that I also would like to clarify is that High Priestess. I've got some tarot cards here. So we have the High Priestess, and I can't see my screen, so I'm hoping this is translating, but here's one. And this one is kind of the standard Rider Waite that many of us will be familiar with. So the High Priestess, when we think about her within the tarot deck, is really that intuitive energy, that connection to those inner realms. And I really feel strongly that our priestess selves are that. They are that connection that we have to our inner wisdom. I keep looking down because I'm feeling into those depths of my belly where I tend to feel a lot of that inner knowing, or one of the places, depending on the thing I'm knowing. But that deep inner knowing that we all have, that psychic connection, all of those elements really come into play when we're working with our priestess selves. And she sort of, well, she is a leader for us as well, that inner voice that guides us. So there's a priestess that lives in all of us. And if you take a moment to really think about people in your life who might embody this priestess role on the regular, like not just sort of here and there, which most of us do. Most of us will bring our priestess self to the forefront over here in this situation or over here in this situation. But some people really live their lives from that place. So if you think about in your circle of women, the people, whether it's friends, family, even acquaintances, or people that you've come into contact with through classes you've taken, or groups that you've been in, think about who you see as a leader. And just pause here for a moment. Think about who that might be that fills that role as a leader. And then I'd like you to think about who you might see in this circle, who is a healer. As you think about these people, you might think about what qualities they bring, what it feels like to be around them, what their energy is. Who in your circle is a seer? Who's connected to that visionary place? And when you need some support or some counsel, who do you seek that from? Now, as you think of each of these people, there might be some overlap. Maybe the same person popped up in a couple different roles. But there might also just be a common thread that winds through the energy of these people. So feel into that for a moment and just ask yourself, is there a common thread here? Often that common thread is somebody who really is connected to themselves, that rooted, grounded energy that runs through us when we really connect to ourselves and to the earth. When we're sitting in that space, so often our inner priestess is at the forefront. And as I mentioned, some people live from this space and others, most of us, dabble from time to time for whatever it might be. So chances are that all of these women that you thought of, that they have already stepped into their priestess self. They are already there. They are living it in one way or another. Whoops. So in my women's circle, we actually do not have a hierarchy. And when we started out creating this group that we decided we were going to practice magic together and come together, we were trying to figure out, how are we going to format this? What is this going to look like? And it has gone through many, many forms over the years. But what we were all really clear on is that we wanted to co-lead. We wanted to co-create. We didn't want anybody to be kind of in that higher up position all the time. So we designated this role where every week when we met, somebody would take on the role of High Priestess. And in that role of High Priestess, they were responsible for creating a ritual or an experience for the rest of the group and for really holding that space. In this way, I came to learn about my own priestess self, and definitely got to see it arise in other people. For some of us, it was more comfortable than for others. And some days it's more comfortable than other times. It can feel really intimidating and vulnerable to step into that place and be witnessed in it. It can also feel really empowering. But by doing this in this group, I learned so much about myself, so much about other people. And really, because of this, because I learned how to plan ritual and hold that space, and I learned so much about myself and grew so much from that, and watched the women around me grow and learn, I wanted to create an experience for other people to have that. I actually feel like I want everybody to have that experience, but I know not everybody wants it or is ready for it. So I created the Priestess Path, which is this year-long journey where we really work with those foundational practices, learning how to cast a circle, learning how to clear and ground our energy, learning how to put together a ritual, and then diving into sort of our inner realms, those places inside of ourselves where we bump up against our edges. And then moving from there into tools. What tools do we use? What tools do our priestess selves use to deepen our connection to source, to deepen our connection to our inner knowing, and really step into our power? And do this within the container of a group so that you can be witnessed and hold witness for other people, which really I think is where so much of the juice in this work lies, is the connections that we make. And that doesn't mean that being a solitary practitioner or a solitary priestess is bad. You still gain so much from working on your own, but there is something that shifts when you suddenly are witnessed and seen in that place, and when you're watching other people do the same thing. So over the years of having my own experience, I have been very deeply inspired by what has been brought to the table. I have learned new ways of thinking, new ways of doing ritual, new ways of really looking at the world that I never would have learned had I not been in that group. And so when I crafted the Priestess Path, I tried to pull on some of those energies to really be able to bring a program to everyone so that they could feel what it feels like to be that priestess, to connect with their priestess, because you already are that priestess. I needed to rephrase that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some time to journey inward and meet our inner priestess. And to do that, we're going to do a meditation. I'm going to guide you along the way. For those of you who have worked with me before, you already know the drill. Get comfortable. That's where we always begin. Let's get comfortable, friends. So find your sits bones beneath you, or if you'd like to lay down, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. But I'd like you to find a comfortable seat, a comfortable space to be in. That felt good, that sigh. If you want to sigh, do it, because it's kind of awesome. And then we are going to close our eyes down. Make sure as you close your eyes that your body is in a position that feels supported and held. Begin to tap into the rhythm of your breath, just noticing. Feeling the expansion as you inhale and the release as you exhale. And as you breathe in and out, I invite you to just rock a little bit side to side on your sits bones. You might even go forward and back. Just discovering as you move away from center, how drawn you feel back to center. And then allow yourself to land in what feels like your center today. As you breathe, if thoughts creep in, you can just allow them to float by. Know the important ones will be there for you later. Just notice and acknowledge where you're at in this moment. Notice all the places that your body is coming into contact with that which supports you. You might even notice the differences in pressure in those spaces. Perhaps your hips land heavier than your feet. And as you breathe in and out, feel a wash of relaxation move through you. Feel your limbs growing heavy. The sensation of the air around you begin to blur, so it becomes unclear where the air begins and you end. Dropping down deeper and deeper relaxed. You might draw your inner gaze now to that third eye space in the center of your brow. And you might begin to feel a tingle and an opening there. This is the space of our inner sight. This is a space for visioning and dreaming and seeing. And in this imaginal realm, I'd like you to envision yourself standing on a path. Feel the earth beneath you. Notice here what your path is made of. In this vision, you might lift one foot and let it land, and then lift the other, noticing the sensation, the texture as your feet fall. Taking a look around where you stand here on this path, notice the landscape. What is it that surrounds you here? Do you see trees or rocks, desert or meadow, or a mountainscape? Or do you see something completely different? As you look around, take in the colors, the sounds, the quality of the light. And then look up ahead on this path, because not very far into the distance is a gate. And even from here, you can feel the vibration of the energy behind that gate. And you feel pulled toward it. So I invite you now to begin to step one foot in front of the other, moving along this path toward this gate up ahead. One foot in front of the other, feeling the path beneath you, the landscape around you. Breathing in and breathing out ever closer to this gate. And as you near it, you might begin to notice what it is made of, step by step. Noticing its width and its height. Just a couple more steps now before you find yourself standing directly in front of it. Noticing the texture and the color. And as you stand here before this gate, you might also pause to notice what stretches on either side. There's a boundary here. Perhaps it is a stand of trees or a fence of wood or stone or metal. Perhaps it is rock outcroppings. But whatever it is, just notice and notice the way it stretches on either side of this gate into the distance. And as you stand here before this gate, it begins to swing inward. And as it does, a woman stands to the side, beckoning you to cross this threshold. Take a step. And then another, stepping fully across this threshold. Feeling immediately the shift in energy as you enter this sacred place. The gate closes solidly behind you, and you find yourself standing on yet another path. Take a big breath in, exhale out. And as you do, allow that vibration of this sacred place to reverberate through you, from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head. Feeling the power here. Knowing that so much of this energy was born from all the women who walked this path before you. A culmination of intention and experience. Take a look around, notice the landscape here inside this space. Again, noticing the quality of the light, the air on your skin, the sounds, the colors. And as your gaze rests ahead of you on this path, you see a temple. And you can feel that this is the epicenter of the energy source here in this space. Almost like a magnet, you feel yourself pulled toward it, beginning to put one foot in front of the other once again, walking this path. As you get closer, begin to notice all the details of this temple. Is this a man-made structure? What is it made of? Is this a natural structure carved from the landscape itself? Closer and closer, you feel this energy pulling you until you find yourself standing in front of a door. What does the entrance to this place look like? What does it feel like? Here at this door, at this entrance, there is another woman waiting. She is a gatekeeper, and she steps forward and anoints you on your heart, on your third eye. She bows gently to you and then gestures for you to cross this second threshold. And you do. And as you step across this threshold and find yourself in the interior of this temple, I invite you to pause for a moment and take a look around. What do you see? What textures, what colors? What is the light like in this space? You can feel the vibration of the power center here beneath your feet and all around. It is a hum. It is a hum that reminds your body that you are home. You'll notice here along one wall that there is an altar. I invite you to step toward this altar. It is covered in candles. And as you get closer, you find it is also covered in offerings. Notice the beads and the bones and the locks of hair, the medicine pouches and herb bundles, crystals and rocks. So many offerings left by so many priestesses that came before you. The energy of their offerings brings with it its own vibration, its own power. Take a big breath in. Exhale it out. And then allow yourself to look just above the altar where you see a priestess standing, staring right back at you. She is gazing softly at you. What does she look like? As you meet her eyes, you realize this priestess is you. This is your priestess self. You are staring into a mirror and she is gazing back at you, lit by candles in that soft flickering light. You are reflected back to you. Notice what you feel when you see yourself in this way. Where in your body do you connect to this priestess? When you see her, when you meet her gaze, how do you feel? She has things to tell you. I'm going to go quiet for a minute here and allow you to be with your priestess self, to talk with her, to listen to what she has to say. Breathing in and breathing out. Notice what her presence is like. In all the ways that you see this priestess before you, ask yourself, how am I bringing these attributes into the world now? And if you find yourself uncertain, you might ask her. She sees you, she knows you. You might ask her how you are bringing these attributes into the world. Taking another moment with her to take in any additional information she has to share. And then I'd like you to go ahead and leave an offering. An offering of gratitude, an offering of acknowledgement. Leaving it here upon the altar amongst all the other offerings. Adding your own energy to the sacred energy of this place. Bow your head in gratitude and thanks to your priestess self, and know that you can come back here at any time, that she is always here for you. She is always here with you. Taking whatever message it is that she has given you today, perhaps wrapping your hands over your heart for a moment to feel it landing there inside your breastbone. turn away from the altar and begin to move back toward that door where that gatekeeper stands, a slight smile on her lips. As you nod to each other in understanding and knowing. And then you step out of this temple and back onto that second path. And you feel the shift of energy around you. And you might notice that there was a shift of energy within you. Making your way back toward that gate, you might find you feel slightly different in this realm. One step and then another, closer and closer to that gate until you find yourself standing before it, taking one last look around this sacred space, taking a big breath in, exhaling it all the way out, just breathing in the energy of this space, this place, this experience. The woman standing at the gate opens it for you, and you step out, crossing that threshold back onto that first path we journeyed upon. Feeling the gate close behind you, the vibration of this place behind you, but also within you. Taking one step and then another, moving along this path and noticing as you do if the light has changed, if the landscape has changed. Noticing the colors, the textures, the sounds. Ever closer to that place where you began, step by step, until you find your feet landing back in the place that they started. Allowing this imagery around you to fade as you begin to come back into ordinary reality, perhaps moving your fingers and your toes and rocking a little bit on those hips, taking in the sounds of the room around you outside of my voice, feeling that light behind your eyelids and letting them gently flutter open. Coming back, coming back. I want to invite you to take some time after our time together today to make sure that you journal, to write down maybe what you saw, what you felt, to really make note of what it was like to be in that temple with your priestess self, to make note of any messages you might have received, anything that really stood out to you, maybe anything that surprised you, and maybe things that didn't. You might know your priestess self better than you thought you did. So the thing is, when we embody our gifts and when we commune and connect with nature and the cosmos and source, we're really accessing that priestess part of ourselves. We're opening up that channel to her inner realms, to that intuitive place. Sybil says, I'm a forest priestess. I love that. A forest priestess. When we bring these connections and gifts into the world, this is the act of priestessing. So yes, priestessing is a verb. When we are doing ritual, when we are holding space for other people, when we are making those connections, when we are teaching, when we are leading, in all of those moments, we are priestessing. And we can do this in our day-to-day lives. We probably already do. But this comes into our modern world. This isn't just about being in those robes somewhere in Avalon by a sacred well, which I'd be super into, but, but it's not all about that. It's really about what are the gifts that you have? How do you access those? How do you bring them into the world? How do you perform ritual and cast spells and listen to your intuition from the place of your gifts and your wisdom? So that is really what I want you to take away from our time together today, is the information, the knowledge that you gained by connecting with that priestess self and knowing that she can come out into this world, into your day-to-day life at any moment. And if you feel like you're ready to journey a little bit deeper, the Priestess Path that I was mentioning earlier is a 12 lesson, 13 moon journey, really into those inner realms. And we begin together on February 5th. We're a small cohort. There will only be 12 of us in that group. And the intention behind that is to allow people to build those connections and build that community, to feel safe in a space, to practice the things that we're learning, to share about the things that we're learning, to share about those maybe kind of more tender, sensitive places inside of us, and be witnessed and held, as I was mentioning earlier, to be truly seen. So that's beginning for us, coming up here on the 5th of February, which is next Saturday, just a week away. And there are some spots still available. And included in that is also a diving deeper membership. So I know there's a few people here who are already in the membership group. So that would be included for the full year of the Priestess Path. And for those of you that don't know about the Diving Deeper membership group, that's a group where every month I offer new and full moon rituals. Every holiday, we do a ritual together or a ceremony together to mark the wheel of the year and the passing of time. And then every quarter, so every season, there's an astrology class, a plant-based class. So it might be magical plants or medicinal plants, but we'll be talking about plants, and a deity class that has to do with that season. In addition, there'll be two classes that are really tied into what's happening seasonally. So for winter, we did the gifts of the hermit, and the next one that we're doing is the magic from quiet to quickening. So as we shift from that quiet of winter into that spring, we'll be talking about that here in a couple weeks. So that's all included in the Priestess Path, in addition to those 12 lessons and twice monthly meetings where we have a lesson together, and then we have a ritual that is really focused on what we were learning in that lesson. So I'm hoping that some of you would like to join me in that journey. I'm realizing I had not pulled up the link. So if you are not on my email list, if you could pop your email into the chat, and you can do it privately, so just I can see it. And then that way I can make sure that you get a link if you're interested. And you also will get the replay of this class so that you can come back and do this meditation as many times as you want, because your priestess self is always going to have something new to share with you. So if you're on my email list, you're going to get a copy of this. You're going to get a link to the Priestess Path, and you will be all set. But if you're not and you would like that, please make sure that you drop your email in the chat over here. Does anybody have any questions? Well, thank you for joining me today. I'll hang out here for a few minutes if anybody wants to check in about anything. Otherwise, I'm so happy that you got to meet your priestess self. I hope you will continue to cultivate your relationship with her, whatever that looks like for you. And I also hope that you might consider joining me in the Priestess Path so that we can work more closely together over the next year. And I want to get to know your priestess self too. So just saying.